I haven't seen you since Justice Scalia died suddenly earlier this year. That must have been quite a shock for you.
It was for everyone on the court, and I think for the legal world in general. My first reaction was, I was supposed to go first because I'm 3 years older than Justice Scalia.
I know that in your new book, My Own Words, which is a compilation of your writings and speeches through the years, you write about the man that you described as your best buddy. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Justice Scalia?
It goes back many years. We were together on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. When I discovered about then Judge Scalia, is no matter how strongly we disagreed, he had an uncanny ability to make me smile, often laugh. He had a marvelous sense of humor. And he took opinion writing as a craft. We both worked very hard at our written opinions. Our styles were quite different, but we tried to write opinions that other people could understand without having to read back. We tried to select the right word. So in caring about not only where we came out, but how we explained it, we were a lot alike. And then both of us had a passion for opera.
And wine, I understand.
Good food and wine, and family. We both cared about family.
Seems to me that you two were the personification of the notion that you can disagree with someone or have opposing views about an issue and still be respectful, friendly, and even loving towards each other.
Yes, you can disagree without being disagreeable. And Justice Scalia, when he was a new member of the court, he was exceedingly fond of Justice Brennan, who was described as a, quote, liberal. But Justice Brennan enormously enjoyed Justice Scalia's company. So yes, you can disagree, as Justice Scalia and I often did. I understood his position. I didn't agree with it, but I understood it.
President Obama nominated Merrick Garland, as you well know, to replace Justice Scalia, but he has not gotten a hearing in the Senate, let alone a vote. What do you think of the Senate's refusal to act?
The Constitution gives the Senate the authority to say yea or nay to a nominee. And they have exercised that power from the very beginning. Ordinarily, the president would nominate, the Senate would react to the nomination. Take in my nomination, for example, President Clinton nominated me on June 14, 1993, and I was confirmed by the Senate August 3rd. Now, that made it possible for me to be on board in good time before the new term started. I could prepare adequately for the upcoming cases. Any senator could have put a hold on me and kept the confirmation going into the fall, but they didn't. I think they all appreciated the value of the court starting out the term with a full House.
So do you believe the Senate is within its constitutional right to refuse to hold hearings?
Well, the Senate has the authority. How it should use it, I mean, I don't know of another instance where the Senate had said simply, we won't hold a hearing. But as I say, it's the Senate's prerogative.
Do you think it's appropriate?
Well, of course, I think it would be good if we had 9 justices. Let's leave it at that. The court is handicapped. I'm proud that we had only 4 cases that couldn't be decided, but we shouldn't face that same risk well into the new term.
If Judge Garland is not confirmed by the time President Obama leaves office, do you think Hillary Clinton, if elected, should renominate him?
Well, your guess about what she would do is as good as mine. All I can say is he is eminently well qualified to be a Supreme Court justice.
Would you prefer she nominate, if elected, a woman?
I think.
Because I know you've bemoaned the number of women
Yes, but
justices.
now we have 3, so we're 1/3 of the court, and I am confident that we will be 4, maybe 5, maybe more in time. There are just so many talented women out there, they can't be neglected.
You once said you'd prefer there be 9 women.
The question that was put to me was, when do you think there will be enough women on the court? And I said, when there are 9. People are shocked. Nobody thought anything was out of order when there were 9 men, as there were, until Justice O'Connor was appointed.
Speaking of women, do you think Hillary Clinton has been treated differently because she's a woman in the public eye?
I think she wants people to know that she is a woman. Just as I don't want people to think of me as genderless. I am a woman. I've grown up as a girl and a woman. For me, it's very refreshing to see a woman with the knowledge that she has, with the poise and the command of language.
What would you say to young women, Justice Ginsburg, who don't seem particularly excited about the notion of electing a woman as President of the United States?
I am very familiar with one young woman, my granddaughter, who's a law student, and I can tell you she's very enthusiastic about this prospect. And she reminded me that when she was 8 and somebody was filming me for, I don't remember what the show was, so my granddaughter Clara said, "Bobby," that's what she calls me, I would like to be in the film too. So the director said, "Okay, Clara, what would you like to be when you grow up?" And she said, "I would like to be President of the United States of the world." Now, this was an aspiration for an 8-year-old girl. I can tell you no 8-year-old girl of my generation would have ever conceived of such a thing. So I know that my granddaughter is very glad to see that there is a woman who has a real chance of being our president.
And for those who are kind of meh, you would say?
I would say to just repeat, those who fail to learn the lessons of history are condemned to repeat them. So I think if you have an understanding of what women had to struggle against for so many years, and you must, if you have a sense of history, you have to appreciate that it's a great thing for our society, because a woman as candidate for president would not have been taken seriously 50 years ago, even 25 years ago.
You got a lot of attention, Justice Ginsburg, this summer when you called Donald Trump a faker. You slammed his ego, his lack of consistency, his failure to release his tax returns, and you later said you regretted those words, and you released a statement that read in part, "Judges should avoid commenting on a candidate for public office." But do you really regret the substance of what you said back then?
I have said everything I'm going to say about the the current election, and I don't want to add to what I have said in the past.
Did you see Donald Trump's tweet after you made those comments saying that you had embarrassed the U.S. Supreme Court by making dumb political statements about me? He said, "Her mind is shot, resign." If you were on Twitter, what would you have tweeted back?
I'm not on Twitter, and I think I would have I would not have responded.
You would not have sent, you would not have joined Twitter and sent your own tweet?
No.
In 140 characters. If you could, would you have said anything to him if you had run into him?
I think the wisest course would have been to say nothing.
Let me ask you.
It's
Go ahead.
kind of like the advice that my mother-in-law gave me about a happy marriage. Every now and then it helps to be a little deaf. So when unkind things are said about you, you tune out. You treat them as though they didn't happen. You didn't hear it.
Let me ask you about some of the policy ideas that have been bandied about, if I could, and the constitutionality of one of them in particular. If I could ask you that, Justice Ginsburg, can you ban an entire religious group from entering the country? Is that constitutional?
I think the question you ask is a question that could come before this court. I can't answer a hypothetical question when it may turn into a real question. I can't preview what my decision would be, because as a justice, my decision has to be based on, first, what other judges have thought about it, because the case doesn't just walk into the Supreme Court. It has to go first to a court of first instance, a trial court, court of appeals. So in order to decide a case, I first must read what other judges have said about it. Then I have to read the lawyers' briefs. Then I read legal commentary about the problem. So before I can answer a question in a real case, I have to be armed with all that information. I can't just shoot from the hip and say, this is how I think it should come out. So I can't answer a hypothetical question that could turn into a real question, as the question you pose could be.
Understood. Let me ask you this way, if I could, and perhaps you can't answer this either, but in your book, you talk about experiencing anti-Semitism, growing up and seeing a lawn sign that said, "No dogs or Jews allowed." Does talk of a Muslim ban and some of the rhetoric we've heard conjure up any painful memories for you?
All I can say is I am sensitive to discrimination on any basis because I have experienced that upset. When we were, this was on a road somewhere between New Jersey. I guess it was in New Jersey. We were going, I think, to Asbury Park for the weekend. And I looked at that sign and I said, I am a Jew, but I'm an American, and Americans are not supposed to say such things. America is known as a country that welcomes people to its shores, all kinds of people. The image of the Statue of Liberty with Emma Lazarus's famous poem. She lifts her lamp and welcomes people to the Golden Shore, where they will not experience prejudice because of the color of their skin, the religious faith that they follow. So I'm very proud of the United States as a country that welcomes all kinds of people. I once explained it as coming back from a European country where I'd spent some time, Sweden, a lovely country. I'm very fond of the people, but they tend to resemble each other. When I took my first subway ride, and I was then living in New York, and I looked at the people in that subway car. What a tremendous diversity. And that is America to me, that we have people from every kind of background, and yet somehow we have managed to get along, make it work, for the most part, respect each other.
Do you worry about some of the rhetoric you're hearing out there and some of the discourse that's been going on over the past several months?
It's distressing, but I'm also hopeful that it will go away. As think of other bad times in U.S. history. Think of the days of Senator Joe McCarthy, when many people in your line of business, in the entertainment world, were blacklisted because in the 30s they had belonged to some socialist youth group. Our Congress then was forgetting that we had a First Amendment that said we have the right to think, speak, and write as we believe, and not as Big Brother government tells us we should believe. And it doesn't matter whether that Big Brother is the government of the then Soviet Union or our government. Our government has a constitution that says that's off limits to you. People have freedom to think, speak, and write as they believe. That's so important, so precious to the United States, that we tolerate, even applaud our differences, and still are able to pull together.
Let me ask you about the racial divide in this country. It seems to be increasing every day, fueled by recent police shootings of African American men. I'm sure you have been watching this unfold. What do you think can be done, Justice Ginsburg, to address this problem?
In policing, I think there are serious efforts to educate the police and local communities to the importance of rapport. There was a time when there were very few African Americans in policing. That's no longer true. They are becoming police officers in increasing numbers. Some of them are police chiefs. So there's been definite improvement in that respect. We are dependent on police officers for our security, but they also should be cognizant of the community that they serve. There's another area I can think of where there were effective police training courses. How should police deal with an abused child or an abused spouse, so that the trauma will not be heightened by the police reaction? I think there have been some efforts in that direction. There's the governor.
But is it happening fast enough? I mean, every day it seems.
Well, we would like to have it happen overnight, but it won't. It will be slow. What's important is that we are headed in the right. We don't say, well, too bad, that's the way it is, and I'm not going to change anything. We are changing things, and we can't wave a magic wand and make it all better in one fell swoop. But we start by recognizing there is a problem, and then we try to come up with solutions. I don't know that it's worse. It probably isn't than it was years ago. But now it's being noticed.
And being videotaped.
And that's already a promising sign. People are noticing it. They're recognizing it is a problem. And good minds are grappling with how to deal with it, both on the community side and on the police side.
Justice Ginsburg, how do you feel about San Francisco 49ers player Colin Kaepernick and other NFL players who have basically refused to stand for the national anthem?
What do I think? I think it's really dumb of them. Would I arrest them for doing it? No. I think it's dumb and disrespectful. I would have the same answer if you asked me about flag burning. I said, I think it's a terrible thing to do, but I wouldn't lock a person up for doing it. I would point out how ridiculous it seems to me to do such an act. But it's dangerous to arrest people for conduct that is not doesn't jeopardize the health or well-being of other people. It's a symbol they're engaged in.
But when it comes to these football players, you may find their actions offensive.
Yes.
But what you're saying is it's within their rights to exercise those actions.
Yeah, if they want to be stupid, there's no law that should be prevent. If they want to be arrogant, there's no law that prevents them from that. What I would do is strongly take issue with the point of view that they are expressing when they do that.
I know you told me a couple of years ago, Justice Ginsburg, you have no intention of retiring. You still feel that way? Are you still jazzed to come to the court when it's in session?
I am as excited about this new term about to start as I was in my very first term here. Of course, I won't be here forever. No one is. I will be here as long as I feel I'm totally up to doing the job. And when you reach my age, that's a question that you have to ask yourself every year. So I can tell you that this year I'm fine, I'm okay.
You're feeling good.
What will come next year, I don't know.
I know you told my friend Dan Abrams that you do 20 push-ups every morning and a 30-second plank. Is that not right?
It's the every morning is wrong. It's the evening. I have a personal trainer who keeps me in shape. We meet twice a week, and we do it in the evening, and we do 20 push-ups. We do 10, and then I breathe, take a deep breath, and then do 10 more.
On your knees or the real?
Oh, no, real. And then the plank, which I think is harder, and that's for 30 seconds, and I kind of sink down, and then we do another 30 seconds.
Should we drop and do 20 right now, Justice Ginsburg?
You could come at 7 o'clock tonight. You'll see me with Bryant Johnson, my trainer since 1999. And I attribute my well-being to the 2 hours a week that I devote to that.
You're a busy person. I have to ask you one last question about SNL.
What is this SNL?
Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yes, I've heard of it.
You've been parodied on SNL, and I wondered, have you seen it?
No.
Oh, well, you'll have to watch it. You don't keep up with all that stuff?
I keep up with one program because it's on when I'm training. So the news hour is from 7 to 8, and I watch that twice a week. I listen to exquisite music on CDs, many of them produced by my son. But I rarely turn on the television. When Marty was alive, he was a television watcher, and he called me every now and said, "This is worth sitting down, taking time out." But now he's not here, and so before the debate, I had the police officers come to check the television to make sure that it was still working.
That's funny. So you watched the debate?
Yes, I watched the debate, and I'll probably watch the next.
Next two?
Yes.
Before we go, I just have to show this book, because I feel like I've been in Ruth Bader Ginsburg land. This is a children's book called I Dissent, and you are the leading character. And it's really about, you know, as a girl and a woman, you can stand up for your beliefs against the prevailing attitudes of the time.
Yes, it starts out with when I was in first grade, and I got a D in penmanship because I tried to write with my right hand as the teacher asked. And then after I got that low grade, I said, I will never again try to write with my right hand when my instinct is to do it with my left hand. So I disagreed with the idea that a child who is by nature left-handed that there should be an effort, as there was with my mother. My mother was left-handed, but in those days the teachers rapped the left-handed children on the knuckles until they wrote with their right hand.
That's not done anymore. What do you hope little girls take away from this book? Little boys too, I guess.
Yeah, that they can do anything they want to do as long as they're willing to put in the hard work that it takes to achieve. I remember the Tom and Jane, or Dick and Jane books that I read in grade school. So the boy was out there climbing trees, riding bicycles, and the little girl was sitting there in her pink party dress. And I was thinking to myself, I'd rather be climbing a tree than sitting in a pink party dress.
Do you think times have changed?
Yes, I think that you will not find readers like that anymore. You will find readers where the girls are active just as the boys. One had to read Nancy Drew to find that when I was growing up.
Nancy Drew, the first feminist icon, or an early feminist icon, right?
Yes, and girls of my age identified with her because she was the dominant person in her relationship with her boyfriend. He kind of followed whatever she told him to do.
Did your husband follow you around?
Marty was my biggest supporter. He didn't take orders from me, but he gave me the courage to believe that I could do things that I wasn't sure I was able to do.
And now, in many ways, you've become an icon for a lot of young women. Does that please you or make you uncomfortable, or what?
Well, it makes me smile that at age 83, everyone wants to take my picture.
Well, that's a nice thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I must say, it makes me feel good about my granddaughters. They kind of like the idea that Bubby does something that's worthwhile.